Hey y'all, it's Monique from Fig Leaf Kitchen, and I am so excited to share with you my red beans and rice recipe. It is a classic Louisiana dish full of flavor, but budget friendly and super simple to make. Red beans and rice is a New Orleans dish. It's a Creole dish, but today it's very popular all over the state. Actually, in fact, I didn't even know it was a Creole dish until very recently. Very recently, meaning whenever I moved to New Orleans like 2 years ago. And that's because my mom made it all the time, so I just assumed it was Cajun. But no, in fact, it is a Creole New Orleans dish. Regardless, it is delicious. It is the perfect weeknight dinner. It is a great thing to meal prep. It is nutritious. It is full of protein. It is the best. Another thing my mom does is for Thanksgiving, whenever we have a ham and everyone eats the meat off of the ham, she throws the ham and like the little bit of meat that's left on it that people don't eat usually into the red beans and rice, and it gives it an amazing flavor. I don't usually cook with pork anymore, but I do try to accomplish this similar flavor by throwing in smoked turkey tasso. But I think it's like any sort of like smoked meat bone. If you throw that in, it just gives it an incredibly amazing flavor. So definitely try that out. My mouth is already watering, so we need to get cooking, and I'm gonna show you how to make this. It's super easy and you're gonna love it. So ideally you're going to be wanting to soak your beans overnight, but if you forget like I did, there is a quick soak method. I actually learned this method from Budget Bites. You put all your beans in a pot, you bring it to a boil, you boil it for like 2 to 5 minutes, and then you put a cover over it, turn your heat off, and let it sit for about an hour. While your beans are soaking, you want to chop up whatever meat you're going to throw into it. Here I have some chicken sausage that I'm going to be chopping up. Just take it out and you can slice it any which way you want. I'm going to do the little medallions. Some people do half moons. Do your thing. This is also a good time to chop up tasso or anything else you're using like that. Next, in a different pan, you're going to want to saute your sausage until it's nice and brown. Some people skip this step, but personally I prefer mine to be a little bit more cooked. After they're nice and brown, you're just going to set them to the side until you're ready to put them into your red beans. So after your sausage is nice and brown, we're going to chop up all our veggies. Today I'm using green bell pepper and yellow onions. Lots of people also put celery in this, but I'm not a huge fan of celery. You can put whatever you want, but traditionally it's the bell pepper, onion, and celery. Just going to dice these up nice and good. Then I'm going to move on to my onion and dice that up just the same. Really should have been using a bigger knife here, but I guess, you know, that was what I had. But yeah, just dice it up, put that all together. After that, throw them into the pan that you sauteed your sausage in and saute them as well. So your beans should be done soaking, but one way to tell is to grab a bean out of the pot and smash it between your fingers just like that. And if it smashes, that means it's ready. So lots of people drain out the water and put in new water for their beans, but I am lazy, so I'm just going to keep the same water and throw in a few bouillon cubes. And then we're going to throw in our veggies and give that a good stir. So as you can see, my beans have lost a bit of water, so I'm going to grab a glass of water and pour that in there. And throughout the cooking process, if you notice your beans are getting dry, you can pour in some water. You want your beans to have a good amount of juice, but how much is entirely up to you. You can always boil it down. I also want to note while we're going to throw in the sausage later, if you're using something like ham bone, now is the time to throw it in so that it can sit with your beans and like flavor your beans while it cooks. So now it's time to season the beans. I'm going to season it with a bit of salt to taste. Then I'm going to throw in a bit of red pepper. Okay, a lot of red pepper. Add in a little bit of paprika. Add in a little bit of dill. Not traditional, but I like dill. And then I'm going to throw in a lot of granulated garlic. You can alter these seasonings however you want, really. This is just how I do it, but if you prefer a certain type of seasoning or spice level or whatever, you know, do your thing. Then we're going to bring the beans to a medium boil, cover it, then turn it down to low. And we're gonna cook it like that for about an hour or more. The longer you cook it, the more flavor it has, and it's gonna come out looking like this. Some people cook it for 3 hours, some people cook it all day. It really just depends. Just make sure if you cook it for longer than an hour, you're watching the water. But after they're nice and soft, we're gonna take a masher and we're going to mash up some of the beans. This is gonna make the juice extra thick and creamy, but if you don't want that, you don't have to do this. And if you don't have a masher, you can also do it with your spoon by scooping some of the beans towards the edge and mashing them up against the edge. And just do that a few times, stir it around and give it a few seconds to let it, absorb into the juice and adjust based on how thick you want your juice to be. And now we're gonna throw in the sausage and whatever other meat we wanted to put in here and give that a good stir. At this point, taste your beans and make sure that the seasoning is to your liking, but as long as your beans are soft and your juice is as thick or thin as you like, it's ready to eat. Serve it over rice and enjoy. So the tale behind red beans and rice is that is a dish you make on Monday. And that's because in New Orleans, way back in the day, Mondays was the day that women would wash their clothes. And red beans is a dish that, you could simmer on the stove for hours and not really have to pay attention to. So it was the ideal thing to be cooking whenever women had to be outside scrubbing laundry all day. So that's why people in New Orleans say you eat red beans and rice on Monday, and that's why it's still served as a popular plate lunch on Mondays and specials and stuff like that. That's about it. Try this out for yourself. Let me know how it goes. I'm also gonna have a blog post about red beans and rice that goes a little bit more into the history and maybe the difference between Creole and Cajun beans and stuff like that. So check it out.